Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Mike's vlogs. And we started the week off with a closed grip bench press against, I believe, 38 pounds of chains. I kind of go off the chain weights that people have. You know, people will say, how are you picking those chain weights? Well, it depends on what increments they have to work with, right? That's kind of what we base it on. So some people might have to do 38 or 24 or 57 or whatever. So just a context there, because different chains weigh different amounts. So ended up getting 315 against the chains on a close grip bench press, which is kind of a testament to how strong Mike's triceps are. And you know, one of the things we're about to do, he's feeling really, really stale in the training this week, even though we're doing conjugate. He's like, I feel a little bored. The workouts are working. I'm getting stronger. I'm just feeling a little burned out. Now keep in mind he's in a very small deficit again. He said he wants to trim just a little more body fat off. He still feels a little too fluffy. So we're going to adjust the training around that a little bit. And I always remind my lifters, you guys got to tell me this stuff, you know, when these things are going on, so that I as a coach can adjust. You know, plus we've been beating his tricep tendons up pretty hard to where he's at a point where, you know, his hips have hurt a little bit, his elbow tendons are a little inflamed, even going to the JM presses against chains. So we're going to change some things up to relieve some of the stress he's on as far as tendons and joints go. But we did floor presses with the Cadillac bar, JM presses against chains. We did seal rows. He changed the bar up again this time. We're using this cambered bars, that Titan multi-grip cambered bar. I have the same thing, and I like to do seal rows with it sometimes, you know, just to get a different angle, change things up. I do that myself. So I'm a fan of it. You know, we could argue probably a little bit better for arms, you know, with this bar. You know, and so people say, well, where's the trade-off? Well, it might work. Things like the rear delt's a hair less, you know, some of the back. All right, lateral raises, which, you know, I have a lot of my guys do lateral raises. This is something that comes up on conjugate. You know, people are always like, well, some of your people are doing laterals. Is just do this and do that. Well, look, it helps with the bench because it does build traps and it does build the front delts also. But why do we do laterals? Just to make them look bigger. So conjugate plus lateral raises, and then if you diet, you'll look more bodybuilder-ish, pretty much. That's it. This guy's chasing a look. But, you know, it will help with your bench a little bit. I don't want people to think it won't at all. Because, again, there's trap and front delt involved. All right, for max effort lower, he did the transformer bar. I believe that was on the low bar setting. I forget on the sheet. I've been rotating the setting on the bar for him. And I don't know how much weight that was. It might have been the high bar setting. But Mike squats kind of low bar with a very wide stance, so that can be awkward. Then, of course, he did some good mornings with the transformer bar, which is our first supplemental lift. Then we do pull-ups on this day. And yes, I have Mike train his upper and middle back all 4 days. We do all 4 days. I'd like to rotate between a horizontal and a vertical pull. I also like the pull-ups a little bit more. So people sometimes question, why do you put stuff where you put it? The pull-ups, for example, because they put you back in traction, we are always going to have heavy axial loading on max effort lower. Doesn't matter if we're maxing on a squat, deadlift, or good morning variation. So, and we're going to tend to do good mornings also for Mike. So I'm going to tend to want to have things that let him hang the rest of the workout after that, if at all possible. So a pull-up works better here. In my opinion, I like a pull-up more if I'm going to do pull-ups at all, and rows on the other days. It's rows on the upper days. All right, then he's doing belt squats, and we're about to pull these out because he's getting a lot of hip inflammation. His squats are almost as strong as his deadlifts. We don't have any sort of quad weakness that appears on anything. So I would rather, coming up, we're probably going to pull these out for a phase. Because they're just tedious and grueling. His hips been hurting. We don't need to put his hips into that deep of a squat position, you know, if they've been inflamed for a bit. And quite frankly, the quad work's not necessary for guys who are power squatting a lot of times. And his quads are already very overdeveloped, and he has access to a sled. So that can oftentimes take the place of it. A lot of my lifters who are very good at wide stance squatting, I may pull their quad workout completely for long periods of time and just have them drag a sled in place of it because we don't always need it. We need posterior chain, we need hip extension. So that's what the rest of his workouts is built around, where he's doing weighted glute ham raises. And then we finish up the max effort day with the reverse hyperextensions. And again, I know I sound like a broken record. A lot of my vloggers have a glute ham raise and a reverse hyper. A lot of them have. And, again, that makes for good vlogs because this is my preferred equipment for a lot of these things. People say, well, what if I don't have access to them? Well, and a lot of times people legitimately can't get access, but if you can get access, you should. Right? If you can get access to these two devices at a gym or at home, then you should do so, would be my recommendation. And I program around it if they don't, but there is no replacement for these things. There's things that'll give us potentially as much hypertrophy, but it won't be the same restorative effects and stuff. Okay, if that makes any sense. All right, dynamic effort upper. We did bands this week, although I thought I prescribed chains for him, but I could be wrong. All right. After the speed benching, which we do sets of wide, medium, and close against heavy band tension, I'm having him do dumbbell presses now. Because again, we need that additional chest growth that tends to drive his benching. His bench is oftentimes limited by pectoral growth, but we can only put so much stress on the tendons and the shoulders from certain movements and have to rotate them. We always keep the tricep stuff in because he has powerful triceps, and I like all my lifters to do tricep work. And his triceps have always been big and strong. But I put a little more focus on chest for Mike a lot of times, right? We always want to try to work in things like the dumbbells whenever we can. But it doesn't mean that we remove tricep work because triceps can very quickly become a limiting factor on the bench. And after that, we continue as we normally do. He does seal rows. In this case, we're using the multi-grip bar again, which again, I'm a fan of. And you really don't have a lot of options for seal rows because of needing to clear the bench. So usually you have to have a cambered bench press bar, or you need one of these cambered multi-grip bars in order to do it. And if you have access to both, that's great because you can rotate them around, and then your only other variations could be stuff like, are you set up to put bands on the device? Can you run chains on it? Can you change your grips? All right, dynamic effort lower is how we finish the week off, and he's doing speed box squats with bands using a safety squat bar. Then we just do a conventional deadlift against bands, and actually even myself, I like to a lot of times run long phases of just conventional against bands. I get a lot out of this personally. Mike rotates a little bit more because he can do sumo pretty well. He's actually slightly stronger at sumo now than he is conventional. I suck at sumo. I can almost never get my sumo within 20 pounds, even when I worked on it long periods of time. And it eventually just makes my hips hurt. So I tend to stick with the conventional mostly, and not exclusively, whereas with Mike, we rotate them. But in this case, his hips got inflamed again, so that's why we're back to doing conventional. He got all those sumo PRs, all the sumo speed pulls, his hips start to hurt. All right, his first supplemental lift, we did the transformer bar for good mornings. Then I'm having him do glute ham raises. I know we did some pull-ups in here somewhere, but I might not have grabbed the footage for this workout. So we had pull-ups in here. Then he does, again, his weighted glute ham raises. And I really like, and other people commented too, that those rollers are really nice on that glute ham raise. I don't think there's really going to be a way to set mine up with that, particularly if I upgrade that Z Hyper. I'm not going to be able to put rollers on it, but those rollers are really nice. And I've only ever been to one gym where I trained and would use a glute ham raise that had those, and they're very, very comfortable. It's a great idea. It's a great design. And then, as usual, we finish up the week with reverse hyperextensions. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.